In the quiet corners of Ontario, beneath the noise of everyday life and hidden from the eyes of the public, there are stories left untold, cases that remain unsolved, justice that still waits, crimes that have left families torn apart, communities in shock, and detectives still searching for answers, cases that refuse to fade away. For some, the pain never fades. For others, the truth is still out there, just beyond reach. These are the cases that have haunted Ontario for years, and with your help, we may just shed light on the darkness that surrounds them. Let's uncover the unsolved together. Robert Wagner predicted his own death. Weeks before the tragic event, he confided in his brother-in-law, saying, "I'll be dead in 3 weeks." Just over 3 weeks later, his chilling prediction became reality. On January 22nd, 1991, the 31-year-old welder from Cambridge was found dead in his apartment, Unit 320, at 142 Woodside Avenue. The cause? Multiple stab wounds. Police believe Robert was murdered sometime between the late afternoon of January 21st and noon the following day. Yet, no murder weapon was ever recovered. Robert's body was discovered by a friend who became concerned after Robert failed to show up for work at Babcock and Wilcox and didn't answer his phone. The severity of the crime forced his family to hold a closed-casket funeral. Before his death, Robert shared cryptic warnings with family members. He confided in his sister's late husband, Roy Bartlett, that they were out to get him. He even gifted Roy his Lincoln Town car shortly before his murder. Later, drugs were found hidden in the car's wheels. Initially, police revealed that Robert was a small-time drug dealer, selling hashish and cocaine. They believed he was killed by a customer. But Phyllis insists his involvement in the drug scene was much deeper than what was publicly disclosed. By the summer of 1991, the case went cold. Overwhelmed with a record number of homicides that year, police were unable to find Robert's killer. Detectives revisited the case in 1992 and again in 1999 after receiving new leads, but progress was minimal. Officers created a psychological profile of the killer, a manipulative, street-smart individual with a violent history. This profile aligned with claims from Robert's family, who believed more than one person was involved. A clairvoyant consulted by Robert's mother even pointed to a dark-colored car and a mysterious woman connected to the crime. In a desperate attempt for answers, Robert's mother, Marilla, turned to unconventional methods. Using a Ouija board, she claimed to have contacted Robert's spirit, who gave the initials BJ, a potential clue that has yet to lead anywhere. Despite leads, profiles, and even a $10,000 reward, no arrests have been made. Phyllis believes crucial details were overlooked, and family members feel the investigation was abandoned too soon. Robert's parents, Marilla and George, passed away without answers. Their dream of finding justice for their son remains unfulfilled, leaving surviving family members with heartbreak and unanswered questions. "This case is solvable," retired staff SGT Brent Tomlinson once said. He urged anyone with information to come forward, emphasizing that someone out there knows what happened to Robert Wagner. Nearly 30 years later, Robert's family continues to hope for closure. His sister Brenda believes, "People know something. Someone is hiding the truth. But will anyone break their silence?" For decades, he was known only as the Otonabee River Man, a mystery shrouded in shadows, unanswered questions, and heartbreak. But now, after 36 years, police have uncovered the identity of the man whose skull was discovered in the Otonabee River in July of 1988. Recreational divers exploring the Otonabee River near McKellar and Locke Streets stumbled upon an unsettling discovery: a human skull. Extensive searches yielded no other remains, but a medical examiner determined the victim was an adult male who had been murdered. The cause? A sharp-edged instrument used to sever the head. For years, the case remained unsolved. But, as Police Chief Stu Betts stated, this case was never forgotten. Advances in technology and tireless detective work finally led to a breakthrough. Beginning in 2021, Detective Sergeant Josh McGrath partnered with Texas-based Othram Inc., a DNA lab specializing in forensic genetic genealogy. Using genome sequencing, scientists created a detailed DNA profile, which pointed investigators toward potential relatives. Through meticulous detective work, The skull was identified as belonging to Gerald Durocher, a man born in November 1949. At the time of his death, he was 38 years old. Gerald Durocher lived a transient lifestyle, often moving between cities. While he had no known ties to Peterborough, he frequented a downtown Ottawa hotel and had connections across Ontario and British Columbia, particularly the Quesnel area. What brought him to Peterborough remains a mystery. Despite identifying Durocher and confirming he was a homicide victim, the case is far from closed. Police are now focused on uncovering why Durocher was killed and who was responsible. They have released a video on their YouTube channel and established a $5,000 Crime Stoppers reward, urging anyone with information to come forward. Chief Betts emphasized the importance of this milestone, stating, "Every family deserves to know what happened to their loved one. We've made an important step forward, but there's still more work to do. Someone out there knows what happened." Gerald Durocher's identity is no longer a mystery, but the truth about his death still awaits discovery. The first day of August 2002 was oppressive. The sun scorched the streets, and even as evening approached, the heat lingered like an unwelcome guest. By late afternoon, temperatures peaked at a sweltering 34 degrees Celsius, but with the relentless humidity, it felt closer to 43 degrees Celsius. By nightfall, the mercury dipped only slightly, settling at 25 degrees Celsius. It was the kind of evening where the air clung heavily, suffocatingly. At around 10:30 p.m., a white two-door sports car rolled to a stop at the corner of Barton and Wellington Streets in Hamilton. The driver, a man in his late 20s with short blonde hair, wore a white t-shirt that seemed to glow faintly under the streetlights. He opened the passenger door, inviting a 43-year-old woman into the vehicle. Introducing himself as Joe, he drove north, heading toward the highway. His demeanor was calm, composed, almost reassuring. Yet as they crossed the Skyway Bridge into Burlington and veered onto Kearns Road, the woman's unease began to grow. She voiced her concerns, her nervousness intensifying as Joe disregarded stop signs and intersections. When the car eventually halted, she saw her opportunity and leapt out. Joe's voice, smooth and convincing, coaxed her back into the vehicle. Reluctantly, she complied. They drove further into the night, pulling into a secluded parking lot at Kearns Park. What happened next was a horrific transformation. The composed man turned violent, attacking her with terrifying ferocity. She managed to escape, fleeing into the night and calling Halton police around 12:30 a.m. She described her assailant as a slim white man, about 5'10", clean-shaven, and undeniably dangerous. 4 weeks later, on August 29th, a chilling discovery was made. A city employee working in Kerncliffe Park, less than 2 kilometers from where the earlier attack occurred, stumbled upon a grim scene. Hidden in the brush near the park's entrance lay the naked body of a young woman. The victim's injuries suggested she'd been struck on the head with a heavy, blunt object. Investigators identified her as 19-year-old Kimlyn Tolgyes, a Hamilton resident and mother to a 3-year-old daughter. Her last known sighting was on August 23rd, around 9 p.m., stepping out of a red pickup truck on Grant Avenue near Main Street in Hamilton. Kimlyn's murder rocked the community. Once a talented runner at Bonetto Elementary School, her promising future seemed a stark contrast to the tragic circumstances of her death. Former classmates remembered her as swift and spirited. A note she once wrote to her estranged father in Trinidad revealed her longing for connection. "Dad, I'm in grade 12 and 17 years old in this picture. I wish you were more of a part of my life, but I still love you." But life had been unkind to Kimlyn in her final years. Her mother denied any involvement in the sex trade, but admitted Kimlyn had worked as an exotic dancer and struggled with drug addiction. Witnesses recalled seeing her walking Hamilton's rough streets earlier that year, her cheerful demeanor unable to mask an underlying sadness. The brutal attack that ended Kimlyn's life bore unsettling similarities to the earlier assault in Kearns Park. These parallels spurred the creation of Project Advocate, a task force led by Detective Sergeant Steve Hrab. The team's mission was clear: to investigate a series of violent attacks against women in the region. The task force also probed possible connections to other disappearances, including those of Susan Gorley, 39, and Felicia Floriani, 15. Both women vanished under mysterious circumstances within months of each other. Gurley had been missing since November 2001, while Floriani disappeared in June 2002 after failing to meet a friend. Police efforts uncovered a chilling pattern. In late July or early August 2002, a man reported an unsettling encounter. Around 3 a.m., he saw a young woman leap from a white sports car at a convenience store. She pleaded with him, "Please stand beside me until that guy goes. He's nuts." The woman's visible scratches hinted at the violence she'd narrowly escaped. Shortly after, the white car drove off with another woman inside. As detectives pieced together the puzzle, a troubling profile emerged. The suspect was a white man in his 20s, slim to medium build, with blonde or light brown hair, blue eyes, and a preference for Du Maurier cigarettes. His familiarity with Hamilton and Burlington suggested he might live or work in the area. On June 26, 2003, the predator struck again. 2 women narrowly escaped his grasp in separate incidents. One managed to hide in the bushes after leaping from a moving vehicle, while another endured a terrifying assault in Dundas. Police eventually arrested 21-year-old Peter Conca, an unemployed Hamilton man. Although charged with forcible confinement and sexual assault, investigators couldn't conclusively link him to all the cases. The attack subsided briefly but resumed in February 2004. A woman was dragged into an alley and assaulted before bystanders' intervention scared the attacker away. Police expanded their investigation, suspecting multiple perpetrators. Among those arrested were John Earl Krause and Alexander Williams, both charged in connection to similar attacks. Despite these arrests, Kimlyn's case remained unsolved. Years passed with little progress. The discovery of Felicia Floriani's remains in 2012 reignited public interest, but yielded no breakthroughs. To this day, Kimlyn's killer walks free, her daughter's life forever shadowed by unanswered questions. Was her death the result of a single predator's spree, or did she fall victim to the dangerous streets of Hamilton? Whitechapel Memorial Gardens, where Kimlyn was laid to rest, stands as a quiet tribute to a life cut tragically short. Its serene grounds contrast starkly with the chaos and violence of her final moments. As the years stretch on, one thing remains certain: the shadows of Hamilton's dark past still hold secrets waiting to be unearthed. On July 23, 2017, Rochelle Lewis was celebrating her 28th birthday, surrounded by family and friends in Scarborough, Ontario. It was meant to be a joyful occasion, a backyard barbecue filled with laughter, music, and memories. But as the clock struck 1 a.m., tragedy struck, and the celebration turned into a nightmare. In a senseless act of violence, 2 fathers were gunned down, and Rochelle Lewis was left fighting for her life. What followed was a story of heartbreak, survival, and an ongoing quest for justice. Rochelle's birthday barbecue had been a tradition for over 14 years, a time when family and friends gathered to celebrate life. With people of all ages, from babies to her great-aunt in her 80s, the party was a warm, welcoming event. But as the night wore on, something terrifying unfolded. Around 1 a.m., 2 suspects walked into the backyard from the side of the house. They had been at the party for some time before one of them suddenly opened fire. The chaos was instant. Rochelle Lewis, joking around with her friend, Dwayne Campbell, was caught in the middle of the violence. Rochelle had her arm around Dwayne when the shots rang out. In a blur of blood and confusion, the next thing she knew, she and Dwayne were both on the ground. In that moment, Dwayne Campbell, just 30 years old, turned to Rochelle with his eyes bulging, wanting to say something, but instead, he took his final breath in her arms. Rochelle's heart-wrenching cry, "No, he has a daughter. This can't happen," echoed in the chaos. Along with Dwayne, 33-year-old Ronaldo Cole, another father and friend, was also tragically killed in the shooting. The aftermath was chaotic. Police arrived to find 2 men dead, and Rochelle fighting for her life. She was rushed to the hospital where doctors delivered devastating news. She would never walk again. The bullet that struck Rochelle's back left her paralyzed from the waist down. She underwent emergency surgery, and doctors removed her spleen, half her pancreas, and reconstructed her diaphragm. Her life, as she knew it, was changed forever. But the investigation into the shooting is far from over. Acting Detective Sergeant Rob North, the lead investigator on the case, shared the frustration of law enforcement. With nearly 200 people at the barbecue, police were hopeful for cooperation. Yet, fewer than 10 people came forward with vital information. Witnesses reported that the two suspects had been mingling at the party before opening fire. But to this day, the motive for the attack remains unclear. Was it a random act of violence, or was someone specifically targeted? Despite police efforts, the suspects remain unidentified. Authorities continue to appeal for information, urging anyone with photos or videos from the party to come forward. Despite the trauma she's endured, Rochelle remains hopeful. She's not giving up. In fact, she's been accepted for stem cell surgery in Thailand, a procedure that could potentially help her regain some movement. Rochelle had planned to undergo the surgery in early 2024, but due to financial setbacks, the procedure has been delayed. She's turned to the public for help, launching a GoFundMe campaign to raise the $63,000 needed for the treatment. With the help of her friend, Keshia Rushton, a YouTube star with over 1.4 million subscribers, Rochelle is hoping to raise the funds needed for her procedure. Even with all that's happened, Rochelle remains optimistic. She hopes that one day she will walk again. But as she waits for the surgery, she's also fighting for justice for her fallen friends, Dwayne and Ronaldo. Police continue to investigate the shooting, urging anyone with information to step forward. As Acting Detective Sergeant Rob North says, "It's a very solvable case. We need some cooperation." The scars of that fateful night may never fully heal, but Rochelle's courage and resilience stand as a testament to her strength. As the investigation continues, the hope for answers remains. And while justice for Dwayne and Ronaldo has not yet been served, their memory lives on through the hearts of those who love them. These stories are just a glimpse into the mysteries and tragedies that have haunted communities across Canada. Together, we can keep these cases alive, shining a light on the darkness and pushing for answers that families desperately seek. If you're as passionate about uncovering the truth as we are, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, American Crimes. Your support helps us bring more in-depth crime case documentaries to light.